The NBA and Los Angeles Clippers, who are now 5-16 and a complete disaster. They announced this morning that ChrisPaul is no longer a part of their team.
Fuck CP, ain't no name on it, nigga. Get the ball played and get the action. Let's go, why you got it? Change the time.
3 in the morning in Atlanta, and the city is dead quiet. Most people are knocked out cold at that hour. But ChrisPaul is wide awake in his hotel room, staring at the ceiling, trying to process the worst news of his entire basketball life. After 21 years in the NBA, 12 All-Star appearances, and more.
Here it is. Here's Ramona Shelburne. She posted it onto X. Just found out I'm being sent home. Peace. ChrisPaul posted that onto Instagram.
The peak of the Clippers era. Everything he built during Lob City, every sacrifice, every playoff run suddenly meant nothing. ChrisPaul was just told his time with the franchise was over, and the way it happened would stun the basketball world. No classy meeting back in Los Angeles. No private call from ownership. Instead, a 3-hour hotel room conversation on a road trip dropped the bomb. And now, James Harden and Kawhi Leonard were about to reveal details that flipped this whole story upside down. A brutal 5-game skid had crushed the Clippers to 5-16, losing 14 of their last 16. And the pressure inside the organization finally exploded. Lawrence Frank flew to Atlanta just for this moment, and nobody expected how it would end after 3 emotional, tense hours of back and forth.
The NBA and Los Angeles Clippers, who are now 5-16 and a complete disaster. They announced this morning that ChrisPaul is no longer a part of their team. The Clippers sent Paul back to LA from Atlanta on a one-way ticket.
I don't have a side, I don't like it, it just didn't work out like we thought it would, and like I said, I don't like it for CP, but it just wasn't a good fit, we understood that. And so, like I said, it was an organization, they made the choice, and so moving forward, we got to see what we do. We'll see.
Paul grabbed his phone, opened Instagram, and dropped 5 words that instantly set the internet on fire. Just found out I'm being sent home. Finished with a peace sign emoji. One of the greatest point guards ever. A future first ballot Hall of Famer. The guy who led the Clippers through their most successful era. Announcing his exit through a 3 a.m. Instagram story like that? Crazy. His brother said what everyone was thinking, posting just 2 words online. These people crazy. And right there, the whole story flips sideways.
Where is Lawrence Frank's office? Where is his office at? Do you know?
Well, they got a brand new.
So it's not in the locker room. It's not in the locker room, basically.
It's not.
Okay, so he shouldn't be in nothing that got to do with locker room conversation. This is our sanctuary. This is our sanctuary. This is the coaches. This is the guys that come to practice every day.
Nobody saw what came next. Reporters caught up with James Harden and Kawhi Leonard the very next day after the Clippers beat the A's. Red flags for anyone really listening. Harden admitted, it's a lot that we were dealing with. That one sentence says this runs way deeper than one veteran being sent home.
Kawhi Leonard is on a minute restriction, and sources told me that when he was guarding Klay Thompson, he was struggling when he got into the game after sitting down for a while. He was struggling keeping up with Klay Thompson. And so there was a timeout call late in that fourth quarter. And during the fourth quarter, and during that timeout, ChrisPaul went to Kawhi Leonard and said, hey, man, are you fresh enough? Do you feel good? You feel like you can stick with Klay Thompson? And he asked the teammates, he said, hey, y'all might want to switch this. Wait till he gets warm until he goes and guards Klay.
Kawhi Leonard backed that same energy, saying he'd been having productive talks with Paul about fixing the team. Talks that made the sudden exit feel random. But according to multiple sources with direct knowledge, the shock Harden and Leonard showed publicly wasn't the full story. Both stars reportedly knew the move was coming, and they signed off on it. Leonard and Harden had grown fed up with Paul's nonstop criticism of players, coaches, and front office voices. That hard-nosed leadership style that worked magic with younger squads didn't land the same with veteran stars who already had their own way of doing things. Harden and Paul go way back, and the history isn't pretty.
And so I was told that Jeff Van Gundy told ChrisPaul, listen, you might have had leeway in other places to be able to, to change up defensive coverages, but you don't have that leeway here. And that was just one of the minor verbal incidents between Jeff Van Gundy and Chris Paul. That was one of a few.
From 2017 to 2019 in Houston, they pushed the Rockets to a franchise-best 65-17 record and came one win short of the finals. But behind closed doors, it was constant friction, arguments, tension, power struggles. And when Paul got shipped to Oklahoma City, multiple reports confirmed Harden wanted out of that partnership because he didn't want to play with CP3 anymore.
I mean, just speaking on this specific incident that Chris is talking about, I've had those conversations with guys as we're leaving the huddle. Hey, let's try to look at this. Let's try to look at that. That's based on the trust that I've built with those guys, and that's based on the trust that I've built with the coaching staff. I am one of those guys that I will refuse to let one guy take down 15.
So when the Clippers approached Harden in the offseason about bringing Paul in for what looked like a farewell run, Harden already knew how this movie ends. He'd lived it before. Then November 29th hit, a home game against the Dallas Mavericks. And that's when everything started cracking. Kawhi Leonard was on a minutes restriction, managing his workload like always. Late in the fourth, he checked back in after sitting, but his legs weren't there yet. The matchup heated up, momentum swung, and during a timeout, Chris Paul did what he's always done, stepped in, vocal, demanding, and pushing buttons at the worst possible moment.
And so when you think about, and we hear these stories about, Ty Lue wasn't speaking to him, or he wouldn't take a meeting with him, or they wasn't on speaking terms for 3 weeks, it gets you to thinking, what the hell was CP3 doing? You get sent home at 3 o'clock in the morning? What the hell were you doing in that locker room? Because it wasn't just because of that event, that situation that happened. It was stuff that was that kept building up throughout the course of the season. He was doing stuff behind Ty Lue's back, going to players, whispering, saying things, and causing turmoil when the team is already struggling and going through a lot.
Throughout his 21-year career, Paul calmly walked over to Kawhi and asked a simple question. Did he feel fresh enough to stay locked in on Thompson? He then turned to the rest of the group and suggested a quick defensive switch. Let Kawhi loosen up for a moment, then put him right back on Thompson. The matchup changed, the plan shifted, and it's still coming was what happened the very next day on the team plane.
Really layered situation, clearly. So what's next for CP3?
Well, I reached out to Chris Paul. He hasn't spoke yet, but I did reach out to him and asked him that very question, and he sent me a response back. And in his text message response, he said, "I'm just staying ready. I'm hooping right now. I don't know what's next."
It's kind of wild, kind of crazy. Still kind of speechless. I'll probably have a lot of words later with my family. You sort of just taking it, the whole experience in right now. This is one of those things I kind of manifested for a long time, sort of tried to speak it into existence, but you just never know if it's really gonna happen, because I love to hoop. I love to play this game, but I love my family more than any of it.
Jeff Van Gundy, the Clippers' assistant coach, pulled Chris Paul aside and called a private meeting. He wanted to know if Paul had changed the defensive coverage late in the fourth. Paul explained he didn't change anything. He simply suggested an adjustment to help the team win. According to NBA insider Chris Haynes, Van Gundy's response hit hard. He looked Paul straight in the eyes and delivered something no 12-time All-Star should ever hear. The message was loud and clear. Paul might have had freedom to tweak coverages elsewhere, but not here. A 40-year-old future Hall of Famer, a guy who's forgotten more basketball than most will ever learn, being told his voice didn't count. 2 decades of experience meant nothing, and that clash wasn't even the only one.
This is Chris Paul. This is CP3. And Lawrence Frank is already on the record talking about, we're not blaming him. You lost 5 straight. You lost 5 straight. You see that tweet right there that Chris Paul just put out in the middle of the night. Just found out I'm being sent home. This is Chris Paul, the former president of the Players Association. 21st season, 12-time All-Star, 11-time All-NBA selection, member of the 75th anniversary team, former Rookie of the Year, 6-time steals leader.
Haynes reported this was just one of several heated verbal run-ins between Van Gundy and Paul during his short, tense time with the Clippers. Paul's response didn't come through a press release or an interview. It came through Instagram. He posted a screenshot of the dictionary definition of one single word, leeway. No caption, no explanation, just that word sitting there, loud and clear for the whole world to decode. And now, the meaning behind that post finally makes sense. By that point, the relationship between ChrisPaul reports said they hadn't spoken in weeks. Leading up to his exit, Paul reportedly asked for a meeting with Lue to address claims he was being labeled a negative presence.
But I think to send him home is so damn disrespectful that I'm still looking at the organization, which is the Clippers, which, by the way, deserves to be vilified. First of all, you Lawrence Frank, he was brought there as an assistant coach under Doc Rivers. How is it that you go from an assistant coach to Doc Rivers, who, by the way, was running basketball operations and was the head coach of the Clippers, to all of a sudden being put over Doc Rivers as the head of basketball operations? And ultimately, Doc Rivers is gone. You talk about something, I don't know about, at the very least, we could say that smells. At the very least.
Lue refused to meet with him. Lue later denied it, saying, "That ain't true," pushing back hard. "How's he gonna play if I'm not talking to him?" he said, pointing out Paul had been out of the rotation at times, something a competitor like CP3 wasn't built to accept. But that's where things get messy. Blake Griffin, Paul's former Lob City teammate, revealed he spoke directly with CP3 about the situation. According to Blake, Paul told him straight up he had zero communication with Lue. They reported Lue and the entire coaching staff were fed up.
After 21 freaking years, you don't do that to him. This is ChrisPaul. This is CP3.
Paul's constant critiques of practices, comments about rotations, and nonstop demands for accountability stacked up fast. Eventually, the organization decided the headache wasn't worth it anymore. Kendrick Perkins didn't hold back either. He asked the question everyone was thinking. For a coach to stop talking to a player, something serious had to happen. Perkins claimed Paul was moving behind Lue's back, whispering to players, stirring tension while the team was already struggling. And at that point, everything finally boiled over. And that's when Ty Lue admitted something that should scare every Clippers fan straight up. He said he didn't want to see ChrisPaul go out like this, called Paul a friend, said the fit just wasn't right. Then came the line that hit hardest, cutting Paul wasn't going to help the team at all. "I don't think it'll necessarily help our team," Lue admitted. Read that again. The head coach flat out saying this move won't fix anything. That tells you the mess runs way deeper than one loud veteran on the bench. The Los Angeles Clippers have turned into a full-blown organizational wreck. And the ChrisPaul situation is just the latest symptom of a problem that's been spreading for years. Go back to 2019. The Clippers shipped out Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Danilo Gallinari, 5 first-round picks, and 2 swaps just to land Paul George, all to pair him with Kawhi Leonard and chase a so-called dynasty. That dynasty never showed up. Instead, it was playoff collapses, non-stop injuries to Kawhi, broken chemistry, and wasted seasons. Then Paul George walked to Philadelphia for nothing. After that, they burned more assets for James Harden, handed Kawhi massive extensions despite the injury cloud, and signed an aging ChrisPaul, hoping for one last miracle run. And now, everything's falling apart in public. With the result, a brutal 6-18 record, the oldest roster in the league, a franchise star missing half the season due to load management. No real way to tank because every future pick belongs to Oklahoma City thanks to the Paul George disaster. And Stephen A. Smith didn't sugarcoat a thing on First Take. He called the Clippers hot garbage and labeled the entire organization a mess. Then he asked the question everyone was yelling at their screen. How do you do this to ChrisPaul, a future Hall of Famer who came in thinking this was the final chapter of his career? Smith said straight up, "I don't care what's going on with the team. They're trash right now. Sending him home mid-road trip? That's disrespect, plain and simple." Steve didn't sit right with anyone. Then came the warning shot. Smith told every player in the league to think twice before signing with the Clippers after watching how they treated a legend. And now the curse talk is back, louder than ever. From the Donald Sterling scandal to Lob City collapses to this public meltdown, one writer nailed it. The Clippers aren't just unlucky. They create the chaos by their own decisions, like dumping a Hall of Famer for caring too much about winning. Through all of this madness, ChrisPaul stayed classy. His interview with People magazine included just 5 words, and they said everything about who he really is. I'm at peace with everything. No regrets about joining the Clippers. No regrets about trying to make it work. And the split actually gave Paul something real. Time with family. Time to show up and watch his son play. After everything that went down, that part mattered most. NBA insider Chris Haynes reached out to ask what's next, and Paul's answer made one thing clear. He's not done. I'm just staying ready. I'm hooping right now. I don't know what's next. That didn't sound like a goodbye at all. Another message hit even deeper. Paul admitted he's still scarred by the situation, still processing it, but staying ready anyway. That's 21 years of storms, trades, nonstop criticism, and pressure shaping a level of maturity most players never reach. Through it all, he stayed professional, stayed solid, stayed dignified. But this one hurt different. This was supposed to be the ending. When Paul signed with the Clippers in July, emotions were heavy. He talked about manifesting this moment for years, speaking it into existence, wanting to finish his career where it truly took off, the city where his family settled, the franchise where he became a legend. It's kinda wild, kinda crazy, Paul said at the signing. Still kinda speechless. I love this game, but I love my family more than any of it. That victory lap turned into one of the most awkward exits the league's seen in years. December 15th made Paul trade eligible, cracking the door wide open. The Lakers make sense on paper. Paul and LeBron are tight, but cap rules block a move until January 19th. Oklahoma City also makes sense emotionally after that unforgettable season there. Wherever this goes next, one thing's clear. ChrisPaul isn't finished yet. Back in 2019-20, Paul was mentoring a young Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, guidance that helped shape SGA into the superstar he is today. But now the Thunder just won a championship. Their roster is stacked, their future is set, and they don't need veteran leadership anymore. The Knicks have come up in conversations too. Leon Rose, New York's president of basketball, contribute. He wants to finish his career on the court, not cashing checks and waving towels. His resume as a mentor speaks loud. Shai became an MVP-level player after learning from Paul. Devin Booker reached the finals in his first playoff run with Paul by his side. Stephon Castle won Rookie of the Year under Paul's guidance in San Antonio. Multiple reports confirm Paul has zero interest in retiring right now. He wants to finish what he started and take one last real swing at the championship that's dodged him for 2 decades. The ripple effects of this decision will hit the league for years. Draymond Green fired off a blunt warning saying what happened to Chris Paul proves even icons are disposable. Players should think twice before signing with teams that move like this. Carmelo Anthony called the Clippers' handling of the situation flat out disrespectful, and he wasn't wrong. You don't send a future Hall of Famer home in the middle of the night. You don't let him learn his fate through a 3-hour hotel room talk in Atlanta. You fly him back to Los Angeles, sit down with him and his family, handle the exit with dignity, and let a legend walk away on his own terms. The Los Angeles Clippers now have to eat the consequences. Their reputation is bruised, the fan base feels burned, and they've sent a loud message to every free agent in the league about how this organization treats its legends. James Harden and Kawhi Leonard are stuck in the middle, trying to win games while drowning in outside noise and internal dysfunction. That locker room chemistry cracked beyond repair. Whether the shock from Harden and Kawhi was real or just for show, the facts don't change. Yes, the Clippers won their first game after cutting Paul, beating the Hawks that same night. But they're still one of the worst teams in basketball. Sending home a franchise icon didn't solve a single real problem. ChrisPaul deserved way better after everything he gave that organization. After all the battles, the playoff wars, and years spent building Lob City into something real, he earned a farewell tour, a celebration, a final walk off the floor with pride. Instead, he got a 3 a.m. hotel room talk and an Instagram post announcing his own exit. That's cold. The Chris Paul chapter with the Clippers is over. But CP3 isn't done. Somewhere out there, a team is about to land one of the greatest point guards ever. A leader, a winner, a guy who still has something to prove when he finds his next home. The Clippers will regret this. Legends don't disappear quietly. They remind you exactly why they became legends in the first place. And this is one NBA story nobody's forgetting anytime soon.